Hello everyone, this is your friend from Naruto Audio Fanfics, and we are back once again with a brand new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto became Hokage after reincarnation and built a power harem with Anko, Hinata&Tenten PART-2. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to hit the like button, thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing Naruto fanfics like this. So without wasting any more time, let's start today's fanfic. Naruto sits quietly as Hiruzen smokes his pipe, after the Sandaime dismisses his team and hearing their report of the mission to Nami. So you used the Kyuubi's power. Did you use it subconsciously or consciously? Hiruzen asks. Naruto opens his eyes and thumbs his scar, a mixture of both. When Gato threatened to sell Hinata's eyes to Kumo and violate her, something snapped, but I was aware as I cut down those bandits, he explains. Hiruzen blows a puff of smoke with a sigh. Your first kill is something all ninja go through. It can't be avoided, but the takeaway is not enjoy it. To do so is to be a shameless murderer, he states, and Naruto slowly nods. What will I tell Hinata? She has a right to know. I would like permission to her about status, Naruto states. Naruto-kun, the law I made was done to keep the younger generation ignorant of things, Hiruzen says, but Naruto scoffs. Not that it did any good. Every adult knows that I am Jinchuriki and everyone above Chunin is privy as well. Even with the law I was treated as less than human, Naruto says and rises to his feet. If you'll excuse me, Hokage-sama, Naruto says and heads for the door. Naruto-kun, 1 second. One of my students has returned to Konoha and wishes to meet you. She'll meet you at the Burning Kunai at 7 tonight, Hiruzen says, and Naruto nods, closing the door. The kid's hard to read, Jiraiya says, dropping his transparency jutsu. Hiruzen relights his pipe. Yes, he is. He managed to fool me all these years, he says and glances to Jiraiya. When will you meet him? Hiruzen asks, and Jiraiya turns to the window. The Chunin exams. My network is reporting movement from Orochimaru and the Akatsuki, both who are a threat to him, Jiraiya states. What about the seal? Hiruzen says, and Jiraiya rubs his eyes. Kakashi said it loosened but not broken. I have the key. If he loses control, have Tenzo restrain him and use the Gogyo Fuin on him, Jiraiya says and heads out the window. Hiruzen sighs once again and takes a drag off his pipe, but his eyes narrow at the stack of papers. You will not defeat me, fiend, Hiruzen says in his hidden Anbu sweat drop. Hash. Naruto makes his way through the village, but he could sense someone sloppily following him. Took me 5 seconds, he muses. A puff of smoke erupts behind him, but coughing echoes within the smoke cloud. Too much smoke, a little girl's voice echoes. Naruto rubs his forehead and pockets his hands as the cloud disperses, revealing 3 10-year-old children. The first is boy with short spiky brown hair and blue eyes, dressed in a gray shorts and a yellow shirt with a red Konoha symbol printed on it. He also has a long blue scarf and green goggles on his head. Konohamaru Sarutobi is here, he shouts. Moegi Kazamatsuri. Sassy Kunoichi in training, the second shouts. She has orange hair tied up, with red elastics, into 2 very large pigtails and a perpetual blush with googles. Her outfit consists of a red tank top over a pink t-shirt layered at the bottom. Her pants are gray and traditional ninja sandals. I'm Udon Eyes and I like math, the third says. He has short brown hair and dark eyes with circular glasses. His outfit is a simple blue shirt which is zipped up the middle, a pair of brown pants, sandals and a pair of goggles. And we are the Konohamaru Corp, they shout in unison. Naruto tilts his head and holds up 4 fingers. Better, but you keep at it, he says. Come on, Naruto Nichan. Give us more praise, Konohamaru shouts, but Naruto flicks his forehead. Then don't let me sense you, Naruto says. Where have you been, Naru ni? Miyogi asks, and Naruto ruffles his blonde hair. I was on a mission to Wave Country. I got back today, Naruto says, but cups his chin. Aren't you supposed to be in the academy? He adds. We had an early day, but Ebisu-sensei is training us, Konohamaru replies. Naruto closes his left eye and glances behind them. Then you better go. 'Cause here he comes, he says, and the three quickly rush off. Brash little gakis, Kurama comments. Naruto mentally nods and turns on his heels, before leaping off towards Anko's apartment. He arrives home and opens the door to find Anko on the sofa with Kuroshiro asleep as well. She was wearing some short shorts with thigh-high purple socks and a tight shirt with their pupper next to her. You know you want to, Kurama says, and Naruto rolls his neck, with a quiet groan. He slips off his boots and heads to his room, dropping off his gear and stripping off his clothes. He returns to the living room in a pair of cargo shorts and a white undershirt but spies their pupper awake. Shish, Naruto whispers, kneeling to pet the pupper. Kuroshiro happily licks his hand with some mini bites and growls. I get beat out by a dog in greeting, my man, Anko says, yawning and sitting up. Naruto shakes his head and makes his way to the sofa, taking a seat and Anko capturing his lips. When did you get back? Anko asks. Naruto helps Kuroshiro on the sofa. Today. It was a good mission. Tenten didn't tell you, he says, and Anko giggles, shaking her head. Details, Anko says and rubs Kuroshiro's head. It got upgraded to A rank because of the demon brothers and Zabuza Momochi. I killed the brothers and collected the bounties. I also took their poison gauntlets. I gave them to Tenten. Naruto starts. I'm surprised Kakashi continued the mission, Anko says, and Naruto slowly nods. He asked us to if we wanted to continue. Tem naturally said yes, and we did too, but wished to get back up and got Team Guy. We then encountered Zabuza Momochi. Kakashi-sensei fought him but underestimated him and got captured in a water prison, Naruto continues, and Anko laughs. I stepped in and gained some experience against the demon of mist, forcing him to retreat. We had some downtime and fought him again, and he brought his comrade, a guy named Haku. He has the Hyoten Kekkei Genkei. However, a turd named Gato tried to kill us, but I used Kurama's chakra and killed them. This actually garnered me Zabuza's respect, Naruto finishes but raises a single finger. Oh, I sparred with Tem and knocked him out, Naruto adds, and Anko laughs louder. I bet that'll piss him off, Anko says, and Naruto nods, getting up off the sofa. Naruto grabs a bottle of water. No doubt, but also the old man told me that Tsunade Senju wants to me, he says. I heard from Yugaone she was back in the village, but why does she wanna meet you? Anko asks, but Naruto shrugs. Anko then pats her lap. Here in Chan's luscious thighs and lap for you to rest your head, she says. Naruto sighs and rests his head in Anko's lap as his free hand scratches Kuroshiro's head. Anko starts to stroke Naruto's scarred cheek. Welcome home, Naru-kun, she says, and Naruto softly smiles. I'm home, Naruto says, drifting off to sleep for a bit. #burning kunai hash. Tsunade sighs as she downs a cup of sake. Next to her is her official student but unofficially her daughter Shizune. Shizune is a fair-skinned woman of average height and slender build with onyx eyes and jet black hair. Her hair is straight and shoulder length with bangs that cover her ears and frame her face. She wears a long bluish-black kimono with white trimmings, closed by a white obi, and open-toed sandals with low heels. In her lap is a small pig wearing a red vest and pearls. Buhi, it says. I know Tenten, but he should arrive soon, Shizune says but glances to Tsunade. The blonde downs her 9th cup of sake with a sigh but looks up and her eyes narrow, seeing her fellow blonde. Naruto wasn't alone and has Anko with him. Tsunade Senju, he asks. The one and only. Sit, Tsunade says, and the pair obliges. This is my student Shizune, she adds, and Shizune bows her head. And this Tenten. She is not food, Shizune adds, and Tenten oinks. Naruto blinks a few times but ruffles his hair. Okay. So why do you wish to meet me? He asks, and Tsunade pushes a sake cup towards him. Sensei wants me to become Godime, but I believe it's a waste. The position of Hokage is cursed. My grandfather, granduncle, the Yondaime, all died. Even my Dan and little brother died because of their aspirations of being Hokage, Tsunade starts. Naruto picks up the cup and down the drink. I used to tell Gigi I wanted to be Hokage. So people would acknowledge me, he says but frowns, touching his scar. How did you get that scar? Shizune asks and Anko scowls. Naruto sighs with a distant look in his eye. I was 9 and this Jonin named Sano broke into my apartment with a few others. He used a superheated kunai to carve this scar into my face. Proclaiming he would avenge his family and the like, he says. Anbu managed to stop them. Sano was executed and the others were sent to jail but released. Anko finishes, downing some sake. Shizune's eyes were wide but Suon's were narrowed. I can guess why you were targeted. So why wish to be Hokage? Tsunade says, pulling some playing cards from her kimono. I don't want to be Hokage to have villagers and ninja acknowledge me. No, I'll become something that they can't ignore. I will break this notion of village before everything, Naruto says and looks Tsunade in the eye. So what's the real reason you wish to see me? Naruto says, picking up the cards. Tsunade tosses 2 cards and picks up 2 more. I've been out of the village for close to 20 years but I still heard about the Kyuubi attack. I heard a child was named after a relative of mine. Kushina Uzumaki, she states. Naruto remains silent, his eyes downcast, and, he says and Tsunade frowns. I asked Sensei if this child was Kushina's child but he told me that that child died. However, that child didn't die. In fact, he's sitting right in front of me, Tsunade says but Naruto remains silent. Shisho. Why would the Sandaime lie about such a thing? Shizune asks but Tsunade chuckles and points to Naruto. He told you. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. At the academy we're taught that the village comes first. Above friends, lovers, wives, husbands and even your children. The Yondaime put the village before a single child. More than likely wanting him seen as the hero he is but the village didn't, Tsunade replies. No, they chose to ignore. Shun. Beat. Try to kill me for something I never asked for, Naruto comments, showing his full house. Tsunade gawks and grumbles with several curses under her breath. Not bad Gaki, she says and sighs. I guess I can keep the seat warm for you, Tsunade muses and Naruto arches an eyebrow but she scoffs. What be grateful Gaki. You are some of the last members of my family. I owe it to Kushina to look after you, Tsunade says and rises from her seat. I look forward to what you do Naruto Uzumaki, Tsunade adds, leaving with Shizune and Tenten. The Hokage incumbent pinches her nose. The village has done a number on him, she muses. His eyes are filled with many emotions but he keeps them subdued, Shizune comments. They soon reach the Senju compound and the blonde activates the seal. You can drop your henge, Tsunade states. Shizune sighs and releases her chakra. Her black hair gains streaks of pale blue and her right eye becomes a dark green, with a blue rhombus on her forehead. When can I go without my henge mother? Shizune says, putting Tenten down. Tsunade folds her arms under her 106 centimeters. Once those vultures are dealt with, she says, as they head inside. Hash hash. Well, now you'll have someone who has your interests in mind, Anko comments. Naruto squeezes Anko's hand with a slow nod. Seems so but time will tell, he says. She seems genuine. The Sandaime lied about you but I think if she knew, your life would different, Anko comments. Naruto pulls her hand to his mouth for a kiss. If she did, I wouldn't have met you, he says and Anko blushes. You're so dead, Anko says, quickly heading to their apartment. A heavy makeout session ensued with Anko giving Naruto a hand job and he reciprocated but that led to another heavier session in the shower. The next day came too soon for both as Anko had an early day at T&I but Naruto was on a week-long break from missions. You need to make Chunin. And Chan wants to feel Naru-chan inside her, Anko says, sitting on the bed in her uniform. Naruto turns on his side with a groan. Tell me about but more than likely Kakashi will have us in the upcoming one in a few months, he says. No kidding. It's here. The people wanna see their prince show off, Anko says, slipping on her gloves and Naruto chuckles. Anko gets off the bed and leans down to kiss on the forehead. Come by the office and bring Kuroshiro, she says and he nods. Naruto turns on his back with a sigh as Kuroshiro whines for scritches and he obliges. Eventually Naruto drags himself from the pupper to fix them some breakfast of eggs, toast, jam and sausage links for them both. Naruto soon gets dressed in some black running tights, white cargo shorts, running shoes and a white long-sleeve shirt with the whirlpool symbol on the back. Ready to go? Naruto asks, slipping his trusty Gamma-chan into pockets and Kuroshiro barks. The pair make their way through the village to the shop and the pupper decides to wait outside, to scam scritches from people. Tenten was sitting at the counter as Naruto enters. Hey Naruto, she says. Hey Panda, have you tried out the gauntlets? Naruto asks but Tenten shakes her head. Dad's wants them thoroughly cleaned before he has them fitted for me, Tenten says. Naruto pulls Zetsue out of her seal and places her on the counter, before leans on the counter. Think you can add a ribbon to her hilt and change to guard to round whirlpool? Naruto asks. Tenten picks up Zetsue and pulls her partially from the sheath. Sure, but you sure that works? She replies. She's a physical sword even if I used my power, Naruto says. Alright, I can have it done by tomorrow, Tenten says and Naruto smiles, patting the counters. Where's Kuroshiro? Tenten asks and Naruto points outside, causing her to giggle. The pair exit the store and Naruto found his pupper laying on her back in the path of people. Clever girl, Naruto thought. No more lazing about Kuroshiro. Time to work off your food, Naruto says and Kuroshiro whines but rolls over to trot up to him. Tenten squats to give her pets and the puppy micro bites her hand. You guys spoil her, she says. She's too cute not to, Naruto says. He picks her up with a kiss to Tenten's cheek and leaps off towards an unoccupied training ground. This should be good, Naruto thought, letting Kuroshiro down. Naruto unseals a ball from a seal on his forearm. Why do you keep something like that? Kurama comments. Why not? Kuroshiro is my pupper just as much as Anko, Naruto muses, tossing the ball up and down. Kuroshiro sees the ball and starts to jump up as Naruto smiles, tossing the ball and Kuroshiro runs after it. This proceeds for another 20 minutes but a pink hair menace arrives. What are you doing Naru Baka? Sakura screeches. G's forehead. He's obviously playing with his dog, Ino comments. Naruto tosses the ball and turns to the pair. That's right. Kuroshiro needs some exercise. So here we are, he says. Cute dog, Ino says, as Kuroshiro runs up with the ball. Naruto squats down to take the ball and give her scritches. She's a Shiba Inu, he says. So how's your training been going? Naruto adds, tossing the ball. Ino scoffs with a scowl. It's horrible. I hate getting sweaty and Shika told me to stop dieting. I need to keep my figure for Sasuke-kun, she says. Sasuke doesn't want you Ino pig, Sakura shouts and Naruto's sweat drops. Dieting would be detrimental for you. Your stamina could give out and endanger a mission, Naruto states but both girls scoffs. Besides, I don't think Tem wants a weak girl, Naruto adds but shakes his head, as both were ignoring his advice. Don't call Sasuke-kun that, Sakura screeches. Naruto takes the ball from Kuroshiro and seals it away. I will when he doesn't call me Dobi. Now if you excuse me. I need to get in a run, he says and takes off in a light jog with Kuroshiro in tow. But you are, Sakura shouts. Ino watches Naruto's retreating form. When did Naruto look cute, she thought. Forget about him. He's only dragging Sasuke-kun down, Sakura comments. Naruto isn't wrong, a voice says and Asuma drops down. What do you mean sensei? Ino asks and Asuma blows a stream of smoke. Naruto is stronger than he lets on. Team 7's last mission was upgraded from C rank to A rank. Naruto even fought an A- rank missing nin to a standstill, Asuma explains, shocking both girls but Sakura snaps. No way Naru Baka did that. I bet Sasuke-kun fought that missing nin, Sakura comments and Asuma sighs. Believe what you want Haruno, but Naruto is right about the dieting. Being a kunoichi will burn the calories you ingest before they affect you. Look at Hinata Hyuga. Do she diet or worry about looks? No, she trains and grows stronger each day. Even Sensei Sakura doesn't diet or let her looks affect her growing stronger. Your need to impress the Uchiha or keep your looks is a dishonor to the kunoichi that came before you, Asuma says and walks past them, leaving the two girls to ingest what he said but went in one ear and out the other for one of them. Hyuga compound Hinata could feel his eyes on her, criticizing and scrutinizing her every move as she does her katas. Once he loved her and cared for her, but that changed when the head ninja of Kumo kidnapped her and her father killed said man. The Raikage of Kumo called for her father's head and her uncle sacrificed his life for his beloved brother. However, her cousin did not see it that way, simply the main house using their power over the branch family. Hinata stops mid-strike as her younger sister Hanabi steps inside the dojo. "Nei-sama, a boy with a scar and dog are here to see you," Hanabi says. She has dark brown hair and pale white eyes, dressed in a sleeveless, blue versus neck shirt with mesh armor underneath, blue shorts and sandals. "Naruto-kun is here. Did the guards let him in?" Hinata asks, but Hanabi shakes her head. Hinata sighs and grabs a towel to wipe her forehead. "I'll meet him at the gate," she says. "Why are associating with a clanless failure?" Neji interjects. He is a young man with long black hair and the signature Byakugan. He wears a white kimono shirt with long, loose sleeves, matching pants, a navy gray apron tied around his waist, and black shinobi sandals with his Hitai-8, under which was a smaller headband with two straps that frame the sides of his face. "He is my teammate Neji Nisan and my friend." "Even your teammate's friend," Hinata says, following Hanabi. The sisters reach the gates of the compound and Naruto was waiting with a beautiful dog. "Hello Naruto-kun. What brings you here?" she says. "I was doing some jogging and taking Kuroshiro for some walkies," Naruto says and Kuroshiro barks, approaching the sisters. "Careful, she's spoiled," Naruto says. Hanabi squats to rub Kuroshiro's head and the pupper quickly flops to show her belly for tummy rubs. "See. So what do you plan for a week off?" Naruto asks. "Father told me that Tsunade Senju has returned to the village. I may introduce myself to her and see if she willing to impart some of her knowledge or do some training with Kurenai-sensei," Hinata states. "If you need my help, don't hesitate to ask," Naruto says and Hinata nods, with a soft smile. "Is this your dog Naruto-san?" Hanabi says and Naruto tilts his head. "I share her with someone close to me," Naruto says. Kuroshiro trots up to Naruto but runs past him towards some shrubbery. "What about you Naruto-kun?" Hinata asks and Naruto ruffles his hair. "I'll ask Kakashi-sensei if I can do some D ranks in the village for some extra cash and train with Anko or Tenten," he says, as Kuroshiro makes her way back. "Speaking of Anko, I should get going to see her. See ya Hinata. Hanabi," Naruto adds and jogs off with Kuroshiro. "Nei-sama, is he the boy you like?" Hanabi say and Hinata eeps, poking her fingers with a blush. Yes, he is and I will get stronger to stand next to him. Instead of behind him," Hinata says, as they head back inside. #Konohagakure Intelligence Division Naruto and Kuroshiro enter the imposing building as several staring at him. I'm looking for Anko Mitarashi," he asks. "Who asking?" a deep voice says. Naruto turns as Kuroshiro hides behind him as a tall man with several scars on his face. He wears a gray suit with a black belt and shinobi sandals with a black trench coat and gloves. "Naruto Uzumaki, and you are sir?" Naruto asks. "The Jinchuriki," the man thought and extends his hand. "Ibiki Morino and Anko's boss," he adds. Naruto shakes Ibiki's hand but the older grips the younger's hand. "So you're Anko's secret?" "Interesting," Ibiki says, releasing Naruto's hand. "And you brought the princess. Follow me." Anko finishing up a meeting, Ibiki says and Naruto follows with Kuroshiro. "You're used to pain," Ibiki comments and Naruto slowly nods. I was one to interrogate Sano Mikamori. He showed no remorse about what he did, he adds. Naruto touches his scar with a sigh. Most don't take my safety into account, he says. Ibiki makes no rebuttal as the reaches a glass window. Inside were Anko and one more that made Naruto narrows his eyes. Mizuki, your former instructor and traitor. He confessed to attempting to get you to steal the sacred scroll and working for Orochimaru, but he's a low-level minion, Ibiki states. If he's a traitor, why is he still alive? Naruto asks. Ibiki cups his chin with a glance to the blonde. Hokage-sama can be a bit soft when dealing with things concerning Orochimaru, he states. Anko abruptly stands and slams her fist on the desk with some animated shouting but storms out. Kuroshiro quickly runs up to Anko as Naruto approaches. Thanks for bringing her. Sometimes I need some good vibes, she says. So when's the big day? Ibiki says, and both clip their eyes to him. When I make Chunin, both said in unison, and Ibiki laughs. I see. Has Mizuki said anything else? Ibiki states. Anko rises to her full height with a glare. Nothing, but the guards saw him talking to the stupid brothers. If those two get riled up, she says, and Naruto furrows his brow. Fujin and Raijin both killed their teammates for food and were sent to the Konoha strict correctional facility, but their strength rivals Tsunade-sama and are notorious for breaking out for food, Ibiki explains. If that is the case, he could be planning a breakout and use them to perpetuate it, Naruto comments, and Anko box. Ha ha ha. You are indeed nothing like your academy file. Anko, take him inside. I'll cover for you, Ibiki says, shocking both. You sure, Ibiki? Naruto is a genin, Anko says, and Ibiki waves his hand. He has caught my interest, Ibiki says, and picks up Kuroshiro. I'll keep the princess, he adds, and Kuroshiro barks. Anko shakes her head and opens the door, causing Mizuki to look, but his eyes narrow seeing Naruto. Demon brat, Mizuki hisses, but Naruto wags his finger. Careful, Mizuki-sensei. Keep saying that and you'll be killed, Naruto says. Gaki's right. The Sandame's law is still in effect. Now you were brought here because the guards saw you in the company of the stupid brothers. So what are you planning? Anko states. I told you it was nothing, Mizuki says, but screams, as Naruto bending his right index finger back with a snap. Naruto moves his face inches from Mizuki's face. You have 9 more. Each wrong answer. Another one breaks, he says, his tone devoid of emotion. You demon. Ah! Mizuki shouts and his right middle finger snaps. Naruto grabs Mizuki's right wrist. Let's try this, he says, crushing the wrist. Ah! Fine fine. I'll talk. I was gonna use those idiots to cause a riot and escape, Mizuki cries, his right hanging limply. Geez, Anko says. Naruto sniffs the air and makes a face. He pissed himself, he says, stepping out and followed by Anko. Naru-kun, that was amazing. And Chan likes, Anko says. Ibiki approaches without Kuroshiro. He talked, he asks, and both nod. I'll inform Hokage-sama and have him transferred to Hazuka Castle, he says. Where's Kuroshiro? Naruto asks. Probably in my office. Come on, Anko says, and pulls Naruto along, as Ibiki goes to see Mizuki. The head of T&I whistles seeing the broken wrist of Mizuki. I could use a kid like him, he thought. Hash hash. Anko closes her office door and Kuroshiro was on her pillow recharging her puppy batteries. Nice going breaking his wrist, Anko says, slipping off her coat. Naruto took a seat at her desk. Lucky it wasn't his neck. Back in the day that was something to have fun with, he muses. Anko rounds the table and sits in her chair with a sigh. You gotta teach me some of your old secrets, she muses, and Naruto smiles. I wish I could. You would be a great soul reaper, Naruto muses. You know there is a way to make her one, Zetsue comments, but Naruto mentally sighs. True, but that is for a desperate situation, Naruto thought. What are you gonna do for your week off of missions? Anko asks, and Naruto props his left leg on his right knee. Stick to training. Hinata is gonna training with Team 8 and introduce herself to Tsunade-sama. I might ask Kakashi-sensei for some futon or Raiden jutsu. I can also attempt to use Q's chakra more as well or some solo D ranks or spar with Tenten, he says. Since the Nami mission got bumped up, the Uchiha will want higher missions, Anko comments. Naruto pulls a scroll from his shorts and unseals a pair of bento boxes, causing Anko to giggles. Ah, is my Naru-kun feeding and Chan, it's so beautiful, Anko says, taking her box. Kuroshiro starts to stir at the smell of food and makes her way to Naruto. Spoiled, he muses, picking her up and sitting her in his lap. Blame the people who see her, Anko muses. Naruto feeds Kuroshiro a bit of meat as he chuckles, tell me about it. She laid on her back in the middle of the street for belly rubs, he muses, rubbing her head. Anko gives Kuroshiro a look but the pupper fires back with the puppy eyes no jutsu. Che little minx, she says. Now girls no fighting, Naruto chides and Anko chuckles, pointing to Kuroshiro. Blame her, Anko says and Kuroshiro barks, as if to say I'm queen. Hashtag 2 weeks later hash. After their respective downtime TEAM-7 began missions once again but of the D-rank variety. This raised the ire of a certain Uchiha, mainly to test his reawakened Sharingan, but Kakashi wanted to focus on teamwork. However, the missions of dog walking, painting fences, babysitting caused their fragile teamwork to deteriorate more. However, this was from the Uchiha side of things as Naruto and Hinata's teamwork was near flawless, making Sasuke in essence a third wheel. Sasuke often asks or demands things of Hinata but mainly Naruto. However, Kakashi would step in and mediate and often chide Sasuke for his actions, but it didn't deter the last loyal Uchiha. Currently the team were in the mission hall for the first high-rank mission since Nami. This is Shibuki. You will be escorting him home to Takigakure. One of our allies, Hiruzen states. Shibuki is a young man with ink-black eyes and long, dark brown hair with a Taki Hitai 8 on his forehead. He wears gray pants, a green shirt, and shinobi sandals with gray shoulder pad on his left shoulder with a brown strap over. Thank you for helping me, Shibuki states and Kakashi I smiles. Not a problem. We'll meet at the main gate in 30 minutes, Kakashi states and the team nods. Naruto quickly heads home and packs his supplies, dressing himself in Anbu cargos, combat boots, a sleeveless form-fitting shirt and black gloves. Completing the outfit with a high collar, jacket with no sleeves that stopped past his hips. Naruto leaves a note for Anko and makes his way to the gate, meeting Hinata halfway and Sasuke soon after, but the Uchiha barely acknowledges their presence. Kakashi and Shibuki soon arrive and the group takes off at light genin speed. Ah! Shibuki shouts, hiding behind Hinata as a bird flies out of the trees. Naruto sighs and rubs his head with a sweat drop. What a coward, Kurama notes. The group continues on until they reach a very large waterfall. We're here. Takigakure no Sato, Kakashi comments. A beautiful waterfall, Hinata comments. They round the lake the waterfall dumps into but spy trash in the water as a pair of children approach. Shibuki-sama, both shout. Shibuki waves his hand as the children approach. Sorry I can't play with you now, he says. We know. Mama sent us to clean up the trash, the girl says. Shibuki cups his chin and glances back to Team 7, perhaps These's generous Konoha shinobi will help us. I'm willing to pay for the extra mission of course, he says. I take it back devious coward, Kurama says and Naruto chuckles mentally. Alright my kawaii genin. This can be a training exercise, Kakashi says. Naruto rolls his shoulder and walks onto the water. I'll start over there, he says and runs towards the waterfall. Oi, don't just wander around, Shibuki shouts but Kakashi pats him on the shoulder. It'll be fine. Naruto can take care of himself. Kakashi and Sasuke TSKS, walking on the water. Hinata slips off her sandals and treads to the water. Cold, she whispers, as the children holds bags for them. Hash hash. In the trees near the waterfall, a young girl watches with suspicious orange eyes. Outsiders, she thought. She has darkly tanned skin with an orange clip in her short, layered mint green hair. Her uniform is a short sleeveless white midriff shirt with fishnet armor underneath, long white armlets, and fishnet shorts with a short white apron skirt over it. Careful, Fu-chan. One of them is very dangerous and like you, a voice says, and Fu gasps. Like me, Fu says. Seems Jinchuriki can sense one another, a voice says. Fu whips around and back jumps to another tree as Naruto stood on the branch. Who are you? She says. Naruto extends his hand. Naruto Uzumaki and Jinchuriki of Kurama, he says. Kurama? Fu questions and furrows her brow, weary of Naruto's presence. Kurama is my older sister and fellow Biju. If he knows her real name, he must be lucky, Chome says. Have her bump fists with you, Kurama says, and Naruto leaps closer, causing Fu to back up. Easy bump fist with me. It'll help, Naruto says. Fu stares at Naruto's blue eyes into the scar on his right cheek but slowly bumps fists with him. Hello, I'm lucky number 7 Chome, Chome declares. It's been a very long time, Chome. How are things with your container? Kurama asks. Chome sighs with a flap of his wings. She is a good child, but the village does not allow her to live within its borders, but that Shibuki boy is nice to her, he explains. My container is no different, but he has a strong will to crush their hate, Kurama says. Naruto and Fu separate their fists as the latter blushes but smiles. I'm Fu. Want to be my friend? She says. Sure. We Jinchuriki should stick together. Do you wanna help us clean up the lake? Naruto says, but Fu was weary. Okay, sure. Fu says and follows Naruto back to the lake, catching Shibuki's attention. Fu. Shibuki says, and Fu bows but notices the children were looking away from her. Where have you been, Dobi? Sasuke says, but Naruto ignores him, looking for Kakashi. Where's Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asks. A messenger hawk informed him of a Jonin meeting. Once we finish with the lake, we should return home, Hinata explains, and Naruto slowly nods. How are you, Fu? Shibuki interjects. I'm alright, Shibuki-sama, and I made friends with Naruto, Fu says, and Shibuki glances to Naruto. Thank you, but if your team is finished, you can leave, Shibuki says. I take it you want us to not see the entrance of Takigakur, Naruto comments, but Shibuki doesn't answer. We're allies, Naruto-kun, Hinata says. Shibuki clenches his fist. That may be true, but how do I know you won't betray my village, he says. Who would betray a weak village like yours? Sasuke says, and Naruto face palms. Putting aside Tem, we understand your concern, Naruto says and bows, though it was short. It was nice meeting you and Fu, he adds. Same here, Naruto, Fu says, but suddenly an injured woman appears, causing the children to run towards her. Shibuki-sama. Enemy attack, the woman says, collapsing with a 2 kunai in her back. Shibuki and the children rush to her, followed by Hinata and Naruto. Hinata quickly checks the woman and sighs, the wounds aren't deep. Thanks to Tsunade-sama I can dress them, she says. We should head home, the boy says, but Naruto shakes his head. Your mom said enemy attack, Naruto says. That impossible. How could they enter the village? Shibuki says. Naruto ruffles his hair and quickly creates a dozen clones. We can think about that later. Hinata finish healing their mom. My clones with guard you. Fu, is there another way into the village other than the main entrance? He says. Fu glances to Shibuki but back to Naruto. Yes. I use it gather supplies, she says, and Naruto nods. Alright, Fu and I will take that entrance. Sasuke go with Shibuki and protect him, Naruto states. Who put you in charge, Dobi? Sasuke says, but Naruto grabs his shirt. We don't time to argue, Tem. People are in danger, Naruto says, pushing Sasuke back. What can you three do? You're genin, Shibuki says. Suddenly 4 shinobi burst from the water, but one stand out. He is a muscular, tough-looking man with chin-length gray hair which is spiked at the top. He wears black, sleeveless shirt, gray pants, ninja sandals, and brown color arm warmers. He's mine, the leader shouts, as there fire numerous kunai. Sasuke acts quickly with a Fuma shuriken into a shadow windmill, deflecting the kunai and cutting down 3 of the shinobi. The leader lands on a rock and launches back through the waterfall. Che bastards, he thought. Che, I missed one, Sasuke says, stepping back on land. Naruto slips off his left glove and pulls Zetsue out of her seal, her hilt now black and purple with a purple ribbon hanging off the tip. This upgrades our mission. Shibuki-sama. We'll accompany you to the end, Naruto says. Shibuki was trembling on the ground but Fu helps him to his feet. Alright, I understand, he says and glances to Fu. Be careful, Shibuki says and Fu nods. Sasuke and Shibuki take off to the entrance, while Naruto and Fu head for the secret entrance. The clones help the children and their mother to the treeline as Hinata starts to dress the woman's wound, also adding a barrier to erase their presence. This entrance is similar to the main entrance but the water is much colder and takes much longer, Fu says. Naruto squats down and secures Zetsue to his back, not a problem for Jinchuriki, he muses. Are you strong, Naruto? Fu says and Naruto gives her thumbs up. Strong enough, Fu. Let's go, Naruto says and both jump into the pool. Both quickly rush through the tunnel of water but Naruto's eyes narrow. Damn it, Tem, but you did put up a fight, he thought. They soon reach the surface and Naruto peeks his head above water, seeing 3 people in a bound Sasuke with numerous villagers. The first is a young, quite tall, and slim kunoichi with fair skin, short light brown unkempt spiky hair, azure blue earrings, red lipstick, pupil-less black eye irises, short thin light brown eyebrows and wears a white hairband over her head. She wears a pink tube top that has a dark red linen along with a open, light blue shirt, navy blue pants and ninja sandals. He's the one from the waterfall, Naruto thought. The last was obviously the leader of the group, that's Suion. He taught Shibuki-sama, Fu whispers. Suion has long spiky hair, small dark eyes, and a goatee. He wears a dark blue jacket, gray pants, sandals, and a bandana. Naruto and Fu dive back under the water to move closer. What is their aim? But it does explains how they entered the village, he thought and waved to Fu. Can you read lips? Naruto mouths and Fu nods. Find Shibuki, he adds and Fu nods, swimming off. Naruto swims towards the shore but several kunai pierce the water and forcing him to leap out. So another rat, Suion says, with a chuckle. Naruto scans the area but sees Sasuke hanging from a red arch with his arms bound. What is your purpose for attacking this village? Naruto shouts. A 4th man drops down next to Suion with his tiny black eye irises, filled with sadistic glee. He has messy, chin-length brown hair coming out from under his forehead protector, part of it covering his left eye. He wears a black skin-tight suit underneath all of his clothing, which also covers his mouth and nose. A gray scarf around his neck, a white t-shirt over his black suit, a blue-colored strapped suit that acts as his pants and a shirt over his gray one. My purpose is not this pathetic village. I want the hero water and the Jinchuriki, Suion declares and takes a breath. Shibuki. I know you can hear me. Bring me the hero water and Nanabe or their lives are forfeit, Suion shouts. Scum, Naruto hisses. The lone female of the group licks lips. You look cute, boya. Even with the scars. Surrender and I'll let you be my pet. Right, Suion-sama, she says. Do whatever you want, Hisame. Murasama. Kirasame, restrain him, Suion orders. Murasama and Kirasame quickly launch themselves at Naruto, flinging the water whips and ensnare his arms. Suion grabs a little girl and points a kunai at her throat. Shibuki, come out or his girl dies, he roars. That's enough, Suion, Shibuki shouts, appearing with Fu and the hero water. Looks like you've gained some courage, Naruto shouts and jerks his right. Murasama is yanked forward but releases the whip, however Kirasame was careening right into him. Oi Tem, Naruto shouts, firing a kunai to free him. Free the villagers, Naruto adds. Suion and his remaining forces rush Shibuki and Fu as Murasama and Kirasame recover. You little bastard, Kirasame shouts. Hisame shoots toward Sasuke but the Uchiha meets her with a kunai. You're cuter than Blondie, she sneers. Naruto closes the gap between him and Kirasame, connecting with a left straight to his face and sending him to the watery depths, with a broken nose and some of the fragments piercing his brain. Murasama catches Naruto's left arm with his cord and yanks but Naruto doesn't budge. Hado number 11. Suzuri Raiden, Naruto thought and Murasama screams, being electrified. This stops Hisame and gives Sasuke the means to slit her throat with his kunai, spraying blood and frightening the villagers. How can the Dobi manipulate his chakra like that, Sasuke thought. Murasama collapses as smoke rises from his body and Naruto yanks the cord from his arm. Fu and Shibuki are holding their own but what is this hero water, Naruto thought. Music. Stand up be strong bleach Ost. Sweden. Suiryuden no Jutsu, Shibuki declares, firing a water dragon and engulfing several of Suion's men. Fu was holding her own with her webbing and superior strength but her breath hitches. Shibuki-sama look out, she shouts. Suion appears behind and slashes his back with a water sword, still the same Shibuki, he sneers, picking up the jug of water. Stop Suion, Shibuki says but Suion stomps on his back. Suion drinks several gulps of the water but the jug vanishes. What? He shouts. Sorry but this is not yours, Naruto says, landing next to Fu. Naruto tosses the bottle to her. Keep this safe. I'll handle this and save Shibuki, he says. Suion laughs loudly as blue chakra engulfs his body. You think you can defeat me Kozo, he shouts but his breath hitches and his eyes bulge as Naruto roundhouse kicks him towards the tree. Naruto unbuttons his jacket and drapes it on Shibuki. Don't worry Shibuki. I got this, he says and launches forward. Suion pulls himself from tree and leaps to the higher branches but Naruto meets him there. You are stronger with the hero water it seems but it doesn't compare to Zabuza, he says. Suion grits his teeth and throws himself at Naruto with punches and kicks but Naruto blocks each one, connecting with a headbutt. Suion staggers back but Naruto closes the gap with 3 snap right jabs and a chopping left, slamming Suion into the tree. Suion recovers and clutches his face with blood running from his busted cheek and lip. Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu, a familiar voice shouts. Suion quickly breaks for the water below as Sasuke lands next to Naruto. Out of my way Dobi, Sasuke shouts and launches down. Little runt. Kurama hisses and Naruto sighs, leaping down. Sasuke fires several kunai at Suion but he creates a wall of water and chakra to block them. Kaden. Ruka no Jutsu, Sasuke roars firing a dragon head flame. Suion calls more of his chakra to block the flame and creates a cloud of steam, foolish brat. This water has made invincible, he shouts but his breath hitches. I can give Tem credit where credit is due but don't tell him that, Naruto says, appearing behind Suion with Zetsue drawn. Suion gasps as light fills his vision and searing pain as his right arm flies away from his body. Sasuke uses the moment to launches himself at Suion and cleave his head from his shoulders with a Fuma Shuriken. Naruto swipes the blood off of Zetsue as Suion's body falls below the water. He's gaining a bloodlust, he thought. Music end. Naruto creates a clone and it dispels to inform his clones to bring Hinata as he reaches the shoreline and makes several more to help the villagers. Fu has Shibuki on his side and checking his wound. Are you okay Fu? He asks. I'm alright but are you okay? Fu says and sees several villagers looking at her. Naruto approaches and squats down. Doesn't look too deep but don't move too much. He says Hinata soon arrives with his clones and those of Suion's forces that were alive were captured. #Konohagakure Hiruzen sighs as he reads Kakashi's report of yet another mission being upgraded to a higher rank, due to an enemy attack by missing Nin and a false report of a Jonin meeting. The letter also goes on that the team will remain behind for 3 days to make sure Shibuki is fully healed. Hiruzen places the report down with a sigh. That fact that someone managed to commandeer our messenger Hawk and relay false report is very concerning, he thought. Nako. Hiruzen says and Nako appears. I would like you to investigate the messenger division for an abnormalities over the past 2 weeks, he says and Nako vanishes. The door to his office opens as his former teammates, Homura, Kaharu and Danzo enter his office. How can I help you today? Hiruzen says. Homura slowly adjusts his glasses. We have some concerns about Sasuke, he says. Homura is an older man with gray hair, a beard, glasses as well as a constant frown. He wears long blue kimono, closed by an obi and a tan jacket with a white wrap around his neck. And what is that? Does it concern Naruto? Hiruzen says and Danzo's eye narrows. It does. The boy is dangerous. His demeanor is nothing like his academy days, Kaharu says. She is an older woman, gray hair pulled back in a twin bun locked by a traditional Japanese hairpin with 2 pearls dangling off the side. She wears a simple dark gray long kimono, closed by an obi, a jacket, and a sash over it. I can take him under my tutelage and properly train him as our Jinchuriki, Danzo comments and Hiruzen narrows his eyes. For the umpteenth time Danzo. Naruto will not be yours. You may think you can fool me by supposedly disbanding your NA but you have not, Hiruzen states. Danzo can make him a proper shinobi. He even harmed Sasuke, Kaharu says but Hiruzen raises hand. Which was a sanctioned spar with Kakashi as a witness. Sasuke is not invincible with his Sharingan. He underestimated Naruto and was defeated, Hiruzen states. We must keep Sasuke appeased, Kaharu says. No, we do not. Sasuke is a genin. No different than anyone else. He may have the Sharingan but he will not be treated better because of it, Hiruzen states and dismisses them but Danzo remains. Make any moves against Naruto and you will be executed, Hiruzen adds but Danzo says nothing, leaving the office. Team 7 see the gates of Konoha coming into view. We will only be taking a 1-day break and I'll be upping your training, Kakashi says. Of what sort, sensei? Hinata asks and Kakashi looks up from his book. Well, Sasuke and Naruto know their elemental affinities. We'll need to find yours and start shape manipulation. Meet me at the training ground at 8 am, Kakashi says. Will your father allow that? Naruto says and Hinata slowly nods. The group check in the main gates and Kakashi dismisses them. Sasuke quickly leaves and leaves Hinata and Naruto. Have you started any elemental jutsu? Hinata asks. Not yet but Kakashi-sensei might throw some my way, Naruto says. Sasuke will pressure sensei for more jutsu, Hinata says. Naruto ruffles his blonde hair. Yeah, and he'll be watch us, he thought. See you tomorrow Naruto-kun, Hinata says and excuses herself. Naruto takes to the roofs and heads for Higurashi weapons. I want to speak to Fu more but letters seem impersonal, he thought. There is a way for you to speak to her face to face, Kurama says and Naruto arches an eyebrow. When you bumped fist with her I may have sent some of my chakra into her. I can use that to pull them into a shared mindscape we biju use, Kurama explains. Really? That's so cool. Then I can speak to Fu and build her confidence, Naruto thought, entering the shop. Welcome to Higurashi Weapons, a deep voice says. Naruto sees a tall and muscular man with short brown hair and a full beard. Hey old man Sennosuke, he says. Tenten isn't here. She's on a mission, Sennosuke says and Naruto nods. I wanted to tell her I got another upgraded mission, Naruto says, as Sennosuke comes from behind the counter. Where'd you get those gauntlets? Sennosuke asks. A friend found it on a mission, Naruto comments. It was a bitch to get the poison out and refit to her stats, Sennosuke states. I hope Tenten likes them, Naruto says. Don't worry about Kozo. I even added some seals to them and fixed the chain launcher. Allowing her to seal several feet of chain, Sennosuke explains and Naruto whistles. I must say that sword of yours is impeccable, Senosuke says, and Naruto smiles with a nod, but then Senosuke grabs Naruto by the head. One more thing. If you make my Ten-chan sad, no one will find your body, Senosuke says. I know. You say that every time, Naruto says. Then treat her right, Senosuke says, and the blonde nods. Naruto leaves the store and leaps off towards his apartment, meeting Anko at the door. I thought it was a short mission, Anko says, and Naruto sighs. It got upgraded again. Some tacky missing nin with a team aim missing nin attacked for the hero water, Naruto states. Anko chuckles as she opens the door. You have some luck, she muses. Tell me about it, Naruto muses, bending down to rub Kuroshiro's head. Anko slips off her coat and hangs it up as Naruto slips off his boots. Kakashi-sensei is even upping our training now, Naruto says. Finally some jutsu, Anko says, and Naruto slowly nods, taking a seat on the sofa. Anko grabs a bottle of water for him and tosses it. We'll see, but the Chunin exams are coming, he says. No kidding. Konoha is gonna want to show off Sasuke and Hinata's cousin. Plus Kiri is sending a team, Anko says, and Naruto arches an eyebrow. The civil war is over, Naruto says, and Anko nods. Yeah, and got a new Mizukage too. Pretty impressive to send a team after fighting in a civil war. So their team might be pretty strong too, Anko explains, and Naruto smirks. #next day Naruto, Hinata and Sasuke arrive at Training Ground 7, where Kakashi was waiting for them. Morning, my kawaii genin. Today we're starting on elemental training, and for the next month, I'll have you learning at least 2 jutsu for your respective affinities, Kakashi explains and hands Hinata a piece of chakra paper. Hinata channels her chakra and the paper dampens. Sweet an affinity it seems, she says and glances to Naruto. Kakashi creates 3 shadow clones, each clone will teach a jutsu. While I observe and give tips, he says and looks to Naruto. And only 10 clones, Kakashi says, with an eye smile, and Naruto huffs. Hinata and Sasuke head off with their clones, leaving Naruto and the clone. Alright, show me your manipulation, Kakashi 3 says, and Naruto retrieves several leaves. Naruto cuts them with futon and crinkles them with his raiden, causing Kakashi 3 to eye smile. Alright, I will teach you 1 futon and raiden, Kakashi 3 says, and starts slowly doing signs, ending in bird. Futon. Tappa, Kakashi 3 says, and takes a deep breath, sending a gust of wind. I kept it depowered but in your hands. It could match its upgraded version Datappa, Kakashi 3 says, and Naruto slowly nods. Kakashi 3 starts signs once more and ends on Ram, Raiden, Raikyu, he says, and creates several lightning spheres. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruto declares and creates 10 clones. Naruto starts working on the hand signs and making the 2 jutsu Kakashi 3 taught him. Futon. Tappa, Naruto thought, trying the jutsu, and blows a small gust of wind. Fit, ha ha ha, Kurama shouts, and Naruto sweat drops. Naruto continues on and dispels his clones one at a time, and each time got better. First person view Naruto inner monologue. For the next 4 months we alternated with elemental training and missions. Some were simple, like our mission for Nekoba, but the cats avoided me because of Kuroshiro. I mastered both jutsu Kakashi gave me, and he taught me the Datappa and a few Raiden jutsu as well. Hinata finished her elemental shape manipulation and she learned the Mizorappa and Teppadama. Sasuke on the other hand was watching and stealing with his Sharingan, namely my mixed taijutsu, but without my body type it was impossible for him. I never let it bother me, but Hinata was concerned and voiced these concerns to Kakashi. He often admonished Sasuke for this, but Sasuke seemed to ignore it. We worked with our fellow rookie teams, except for Team Guy, but mainly due to Kakashi's fear or rivalry with Might Guy, but I met up with Tenten and Lee to train on our off time, learning Tenten has a Raiden affinity like me and showed her how to do the manipulations. I got to know Tsunade a lot better, and she told me that her student Shizune was actually her biologically daughter. I could understand that being the son of a Kage. Tsunade taught me how use the mystic palm, but she was impressed by Hinata and was debating on taking her as an apprentice. Though the elders and traditionalists of her clan were against it, but Hiashi shockingly was not against it. The village welcomed Tsunade back and tried to curry favor with her, but my fellow blonde shot them down in a heartbeat and kept secret that she was becoming the Godime Hokage. Tsunade even met with many of the younger kunoichi to set them straight about kunoichi life, but the fangirl plague still held strong with many. Speaking of fangirls, something strange or downright weird came out that Sasuke was hanging out with Sakura, so much that it seemed they were dating. Sakura hung off Sasuke's coattails, often coming to our training session or spying for Sasuke. Ino took the news in shock and was moping about but it showed Sakura's true colors, as she made it known she has Sasuke. After that, Ino started to take her training more seriously and came to me or Hinata for tips. I was glad Ino was breaking free from the fangirl plague. Another thing was I getting letters from Fu, and they were good. The villagers were more accepting of her since the Suian's invasion and was close to becoming a genin. We even tried the Biju mindscape and it worked, allowing Fu to see me face to face when we're sleeping. Another month passed and the Chunin exams were closing in. Our training was slowing down, but we were prepared. Naruto yawns as he makes his way through the village. Chunin exams are here. The village is more lively, he thought. Hey, let me go. Please let him go. Shut up. Several voices shout. Naruto follows the sounds and sees Konohamaru being held up by a young man. Sakura was glaring at the boy with Miyogi and Udon behind her. He has makeup on his face and dressed in a black, baggy, full-body suit with a red and yellow circle on the front. He also wears a black hood which covered his head completely and has cat-like ears. Kankuro let him go, the girl next to him says. She has teal eyes and sandy blonde hair, which is gathered into 4 consecutive pigtails. She wears a single light purple-colored, off-the-shoulders garment that extended to halfway down her thighs, with a scarlet sash tied around her waist and fishnet worn over her shoulders, legs, but specifically on her right calf and her left thigh. Don't worry about it, Temari. Gaara isn't here, Kankuro says. Konohamaru struggles to free himself, but he sees Naruto. Naruto Nichin, he shouts. Temari and Kankuro turn to see Naruto with his hands pocketed, causing the former to lick her lips. He's kinda cute for a tree hugger, Temari thought. Put him down. He's the Sandame's grandson, Naruto says. Kankuro smirks with a eye smile to Naruto, and if I don't, he says, but his breath hitches, as Naruto was behind him. He's fast, Temari thought. Kankuro drops Konohamaru and whips around with a back jump, reaching for the large pack on his back as Konohamaru runs behind Naruto. Kankuro, you're using crow, Temari says, and Kankuro chuckles but feels a rock strike his head. Sasuke-kun, Sakura shouts. Sasuke was standing on a branch with a few rocks in his hands. What do you think you're doing? Foreign ninja, he says, and Kankuro glares at him. You're a disgrace to our village, Kankuro, a voice says, and Kankuro freezes. Sasuke gasps, as well as underneath the branch he was on was another person. He has spiky red hair and teal eyes but dark rings around them, along a tattoo of love on his forehead. He wears a black bodysuit with an open neck, t-shirt-like sleeves, and almost full-length leggings. With this, he wears a white cloth over his right shoulder and the left side of his hips. He has a wide leather band from his left shoulder to his right hip with which he carries his sand gourd. Gee, Gaara, Kankuro says. How did he get under me? Sasuke thought. Naruto looks over Gaara with a tilt of his head, Shukaku's Jinchuriki. Those bags under his eyes denote that Tanuki's torment, Kurama says. How do you know that? Naruto thought. Shukaku never sleeps, so he probably torments his host with the same, Kurama replies. Gaara vanishes in a swirl of sand and appears next to his siblings. I apologize on my brother's behalf, he says. Sasuke quickly drops down with a crouch. You must be here for the Chunin exams. Who are you? He says. My name is Gaara no Sabaku, Gaara says but spies Naruto. Who are you? He directs to him. Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke interjects but Gaara points to Naruto. I meant him, Gaara says and Sasuke glares, clenching his fists. Naruto ruffles his hair with a blank look. Naruto Uzumaki. Kyodai. He says, his eyes flashing red for a moment. A dark smirk forms on Gaara's face and that scares his siblings. I look forward to proving my existence to you, he says, leaving with his siblings. Konohamaru and his friends run off as Sasuke scoffs at Naruto and leaves with Sakura, hanging of him. Naruto sighs and continues to head for their team's meeting spot but bloodlust enters his senses. Oya, we have found our prey, a smooth voice says. Naruto pockets his hands and turns to three people but one of them is Haku. He wears a dark blue kimono, which extends to mid-thigh, with camo pants underneath. He also has a white obi adorned with black snow flakes and get a sandal, his hair pinned up like before in a Kiri Hitai 8. Hello Naruto-kun, Haku says. Accompanying Haku were a young man and young woman, both leaking their ki. The man is tall with pointed teeth, shoulder-length wavy black hair over the right side of his face, and light blue eyes. He wears a red, sleeveless, pinstripe turtleneck shirt along with matching arm warmers and black pants. A sleeveless black Jinbauri war coat with tan lining and gray hemming, worn as a surcoat in the traditional style. Interesting, he muses. His comrade is of average height and slender build with short and straight comb-backed blonde hair, blue color eyes and sharp teeth. She wears a red, pinstripe and sleeveless dress with a short skirt and leggings of the same design and long wrist wraps. She also wears a long-sleeve black Jinbauri war coat with tan lining and gray hemming, draped over her shoulders. So he's the one who fought Zabuza-sama. Hey, he doesn't look so tough. Right, Shizuma? She says, smirking. Shizuma approaches Naruto and gives him the once-over, other than the Chelsea Scar Bunton. Indeed he's not so tough, he says. How have you been, Haku? Naruto asks, ignoring both. Haku covers his mouth with an eye smile. Things are rebuilding. Godime-sama sent us to show the world Kurigakure still has power, he explains. Naruto glances to Shizuma and Bunton. You both fought in the Civil War, he asks. We did, and we'll show all the other nations. The power of the bloody mist, Shizuma says, brushing past Naruto and followed by Bunton. Forgive them, Naruto. Both of them are related to infamous missing Nin, Haku says and excuses himself. Naruto watches him leave and turns on his heels but covers his face as a wide grin forms on his face, before leaping off and meeting his team. Kakashi gives them their waivers to join the exams, before departing and Sasuke follows suit. Naruto-kun, have you noticed Sasuke-san's changes? Hinata states. Yeah, and it's odd. He's ignored Sakura for the longest and now they look like a couple, Naruto comments. So anyway, are you ready for the exams? Naruto adds and Hinata slightly pokes her fingers. It will be a test and a wake-up call, Hinata says. The pair continue through the village and eventually part ways until tomorrow. Next day, Chunin exams road -1 #. Naruto stares into his full-length mirror, dressed in dark blue Anbu cargos with combat boots. A form-fitting, high-collar, lightweight tactical vest, a form-fitting, long-sleeve shirt with silver sleeves with bionic arm graphics on them and a pair of white gloves but the palms of the gloves were dark blue. Naruto secures his ninja pouch to his pants and Zetsue to his back, pointing to his right shoulder. Time for some fun, and if you get promoted, the village will lose their minds, Kurama states, and Naruto ruffles his hair, before tying his Hitai to his left arm. Naruto grabs a bottle water and quickly down it. We'll see, he thought, heading out. He quickly takes the roofs to meet his team at the academy gates, finding Sasuke already there and Hinata walking up. You better not bring me down, Dobi, Sasuke says, but Naruto ignores him as they enter the academy with the other teams. Hey, let us in, a voice shouts, as TEAM-7 makes it to the second floor but it was marked third. Naruto saw Tenten and her team arguing with two proctors, but they weren't having it. Naruto-kun, this isn't the right floor, Hinata whispers, and Naruto slowly nods but quickly elbows Sasuke before he could speak. Don't say a word, Tem, Naruto says, as they head to the proper floor. Team 7 reaches a large hall. Wait, a loud voice says. Naruto looks up and sees Lee on the balcony, but Sasuke scoffs. What do you want? Sasuke says. Lee quickly leaps down into a crouch. I challenge you to a fight, Sasuke, he says. Why should I fight you? Sasuke says, and Lee takes his Goken stance. I wish to see if hard work can beat natural talent, Lee says, and Sasuke smirks, activating his Sharingan. You've heard of me, yet you wish to try. Foolish. Sasuke sneers. Naruto sighs and taps Hinata on the shoulder. Let's go. This won't take long, he says. Are you sure, Naruto-kun? Hinata says, and Naruto looks between the pair. Yeah, we already know the winner, Naruto says, heading for the stairs to the third floor with Hinata in tow. So you are smart, Dobi, Sasuke shouts, but Naruto ignores him. The pair make it the third floor and find Kakashi waiting for them. Where's Sasuke? Kakashi asks. He'll be along shortly, Naruto says. Sure enough, Sasuke comes up the stairs with a bruise on his face. Good, now that you're all here. You can officially take the exams. Only teams of 3 can enter this room, Kakashi says, and his team nods, causing him to eye smile. Good luck and be prepared for anything, Kakashi says, and vanishes in a puff of smoke. Team 7 opens the door and get a view of numerous teams from numerous villages, giving them various looks. Naruto spies Haku and Gaara's teams, giving them scrutinizing looks. So few challenges, he thought. Sasuke-kun, Sakura shouts, jumping onto Sasuke's back. Sasuke frowns but gives the Pinkett a look, and she gets off of him as the rest of team arrives. Naruto, Kiba says, and Naruto bumps his fist before he rubs Akamaru's head. Shino, Naruto says, and Shino gives Naruto a curt nod. Team 10 soon arrives and Ino gives Sakura a look, but the Pinkett smirks. Mendoku say the most troublesome team is here, Shikamaru says, as Choji eats some chips. Looks like all the rookies are participating, Kiba comments, and Naruto glances around the room but sees the Oto team. All 3 were giving off arrogant stances, and one runs his finger across his neck. He has spiky, black hair, dark eyes, and dressed in a beige shirt with 2 black stripes and 3 prints of the kanji for death down the front. His forehead protector has an attached hapuri under the cloth rather than connected to the metal plate. Looks, it's the Uchiha, he says. The lone kunoichi has fair skin, black eyes with very long black hair, almost reaching down to the ground, tied by a violet ribbon right near the end. She wears a pale green vest somewhat similar to a flak jacket, snake-patterned pants with a snake-patterned skirt over it, and a snake-patterned scarf around her neck, much like her teammates. He's not bad looking, she says. The last is the most mysterious, as bandages cover most of his face, leaving only his left eye uncovered. He wears a large poncho with long sleeves, a snake-patterned scarf around his neck, a straw raincoat protruding from the back of his scarf, and a large amplifier on his right arm. You should be weary. Everyone is on edge. These exams are nothing to scoff at, a voice says. The Konoha 9 turns to a young man with onyx eyes and ash-gray hair in a ponytail and black-rimmed glasses. He wears a dark purple shirt with a high collar, a white undershirt, and dark purple pants with a white cloth waistband. Who the hell are you? Kiba says. The shinobi adjusts his glasses. I'm Kabuto Yakushi and I am your senpai. I have taken these exams several times, he says. Naruto tilts his head but his eyes narrow. He's stronger than most everyone in this room and he smells of snakes like Anko, he thought, but turns his attention to the Oto team. Naruto breaks off from his group with his hands pocketed and approaches the sound trio. What the you want, tree hugger? The brash one of the 3 says. Naruto leans towards his face, scoping the competition. Oto is recently formed village and I wanted to see how stack up. Beady eye, he says. Beady eye. My name is Zaku and remember it. Because it'll be the last word you'll hear, Zaku says. The mummy of the group grabs Zaku. Easy. My name is Dosu and that's Kin. So do we stack up? He says. Yes. You have my attention. You've been directing your key at me or my team. Either way, message received. Naruto says and turns on his heels, heading back towards his team. Zaku was about to charge Naruto but Dosu grabs, stop. That's the Jinchuriki. He's dangerous, he whispers. So what did I miss? Naruto says, reaching the others. Kabuto turns around with an adjust of his glasses. I was showing your fellow rookies information on certain ninja in the exam, he says but Naruto frowns. That's no fun but I am curious about something Kabuto. Why do you smell like snakes? Naruto says, catching Kabuto off guard but before he could answer. A large puff of smoke erupts and reveals Ibiki and about 20 members of the T&I force. Alright maggots. It's time to begin. My name is Ibiki Morino and I am the proctor of this first round of the Chunin exams, Ibiki declares, causing everyone to go on guard. Now everyone hand in your slips. You will be giving a number and that number will determine where you sit for this first round written exams, Ibiki adds. The genin soon form a line and hand in their slips. Before long all of them were seated. Naruto finds himself next to Ino. Good luck Ino, he says and Ino glances his way. Whatever. It doesn't concern you, Ino says. Naruto arches an eyebrow but Ibiki slams his fist on the board, everyone eyes front. There are several rules you all need to know for this exam, Ibiki starts. Now then this exam is based on a number system. You will begin with a perfect score of 10 but for every question you miss, a point is deducted. Rule 2. Your team will pass or fail based on the total number of points you finish with. Rule 3. The sentinels around the room are there to see if you're cheating and if they catch you. 2 points are deducted, Ibiki continues. What? Sakura shouts. Ibiki tilts his head with a smirk. That's right and if you're caught 5 times, you are disqualified before the tests are done and so is your entire team, Ibiki states, shocking many in the room. Psychological warfare already, Naruto thought. Now the final question won't be given out until 15 minutes before the end of the exam. You have 1 hour to finish the test. Now begin, Ibiki shouts. Naruto flips over the test and starts to move the pencil through his fingers. So how do we do this? Zetsue comments. This exam is about information gathering. Ibiki wants us to cheat without getting caught. Some in the room have figured it out already, Naruto thought. Throughout the room various genin were gathering their intel. Dosu using his hearing, while Gaara used his sand and Kankuro his puppets. Tenten uses mirrors and chakra string to get her answers from Shino, who used his insects to ascertain his own. However just as many were caught as well, their entire team kicked out by the proctors. Zetsue manifests behind Naruto and starts to search for the answers, try Sakura. She's the smartest of our group, he thought but his eyes narrow. The temperature in the room has changed. Hey clever. Amp up the tension and mistakes will be made, Naruto thought. Hinata, Neji and Sasuke use their dojutsu to get their answers, while Ino uses her clan's techniques to get the answers. This is the least you can do. After stealing Sasuke-kun from me forehead, Ino thought. Time continues to click by as the number of teams failing reaches 15, alright listen up. It's time for the 10th and final question, Ibiki shouts but smirks. However there is a few more rules you need to know. Rule 1 you all have a right to refuse the final question, Ibiki says. Hey what's the catch if refuse the 10th question, Tamari shouts. Simple if you refuse the 10th question. Regardless of the other 9. You get a 0 thus your team fails, Ibiki replies and murmurs echoes. Clever creating more tension and more snap reactions. Ibiki you are a man that can break even the strongest mind but not this one, Naruto thought. Quite confident, Kurama comments. Ibiki raises a finger. Now if you do take the 10th question and answer wrong, You will be barred from ever taking the Chunin exams again, Ibiki declares. Kiba quickly bolts up in his chair. That's bull. There are people who have taken the exams before, he shouts and Akamaru barks but Ibiki chuckles. That may be true but it just means you're unlucky to have me as your proctor. By all means skip it and just come back next year. Now if you don't want to take the final question, raise your hand and you can leave, Ibiki states. The tension in the room continues to grow as the time ticks by and slowly people raise their hands. Any more? Ibiki shouts and no one moves. Well, you all pass, he adds, causing the room to explode with murmurs. Ibiki removes his bandana to reveal to his scarred head, the 10th question was your choice to stay. The 9 questions were designed to have you gather information, which is key to battles. A shinobi must endure even through pain or death to gather information, he explains, readying his bandana. Suddenly the window shatters as a black bundle passes through. She's jumped the gun again, Ibiki thought. The bundle unfurls with several kunai piercing the wall to hold, revealing Anko, and painted on the banner were her name and several pictures of Naruto. One of which is blown up of him asleep with no shirt on, causing several of the kunoichi, even Ino and Hinata, to have minor nosebleeds. When did you get that photo of him topless? Tenten shouts, bolting up in her seat and shocking her teammates. Shadows cover Naruto's face as he snaps the pencil in half, amid the loud cackling of Kurama and Zetsue. The name's Anko Mitarashi and I am the proctor of the second round of the exams. Are you ready? Anko shouts. Ibiki peeks from behind the banner. You're early again and did you forget who's here? He says and Anko freezes. She mechanically turns her head as Naruto was sitting with a blank look on his face, before slowly rising from his seat and heading to the door. Naruto raises his boot and kicks down the door amid the shocked looks of the others. Naru-kun, wait. And Chan is sorry, Anko shouts, running after him followed by Tenten. Yeah, blame her not me, Tenten shouts. Ibiki clears his throat and gets their attention. Congratulations on passing and you should follow Anko to the Forest of Death for the second round, he says. Everyone gets to their feet and following Anko out of the room. Mendoku say that is the first time I've seen Naruto really upset, Shikamaru says, and the other Konoha rookies were just as confused. And Chan is sorry Naru-kun, Anko says over and over, shaking Naruto side to side with Tenten on the other side. Yeah, Naruto. She's sorry. Plus I had nothing to do with this, Tenten says. Naruto leans on the raised podium with arms folded and his cheeks puffed up. Near them was also a large tent. The others are coming, Naruto says, pushing off the podium but looks back with his tongue out. Anko composes herself quickly as the other genin arrive and Naruto makes his way to his team, while Tenten does the same but the blonde could feel lustful gazes on him. Are you alright Naruto-kun? Hinata asks and Naruto waves his hand. Anko unleashes her ki to garner their attention. Alright, listen up. Behind me is training ground 44 or the Forest of Death, and for the next 5 days you're home away from home. It has 44 locked gates. A river and forest inside. This second round is about survival, she declares. Survive, Ino shouts. Anko grins wide and holds up 2 scrolls with one marked heaven and the other earth. That's right, Blondie. The goal is to survive and reach the center tower with both these scrolls, she explains. So we have to survive and get both scrolls. Is killing allowed? Bunten says, grinning. Anko looks over the Kiri Kunoichi. Exactly. Do whatever it takes to have both scrolls. Every team is your enemy, she states. What about food? Choji says and Shikamaru sighs, muttering. Plenty of animals inside or just starve. Treat this like a real mission, Anko says and holds up a stack of papers. This waiver will absolve your respective villages in case of death. Take one. Pass it around and sign it. Then turn them in and receive the scroll for your team, Anko adds. Each of the genin sign their waiver and one member of the respective teams gets the scroll, with Hinata getting their heaven scroll. Each team moved to their respective gate and TEAM 7 gets the 12th gate. You two better not hold me back, Sasuke says, and Naruto ignores him. He moves Zetsue to his lower back and adjusts his gloves, 2 minor objectives. Find out why Kabuto smells like snakes and scout Gaara, Naruto thought. The proctor opens the lock-on gate and checks her watch. I gotta say, Anko didn't do you justice, she says, and Naruto scoffs. She better be ready for the prank that comes, Naruto says, and a chill goes up Anko's spine. The timer blares and the gates open as all the teams rush inside, thus beginning the second round of the Chunin exams. Hash hash. Anko kicks her legs lazily with a dango stick in her mouth and screams, filling her ears. The fun has finally begun, she thought, but sighs. I bet Naruto is upset with me for showing those photos, but I wanted those little girls to see that he is my man, Anko thought, spitting her stick at a lizard and through its head. Oi Mitarashi, come check this out, a proctor shouts. Anko scoffs and hops down with a tisk. What? Some kid ran back to the fence. Katetsu, she says. Katetsu has long, spiky, black hair and dark eyes. A strip of bandage running across the bridge of his nose and a light color marking on his chin and gray uniform. No, we found 3 bodies, Katetsu says, but Anko scoffs. So what, people die in the forest all the time, Anko says, but Katetsu shakes his head. No, these bodies are outside the gate and all of them are strange. Just come and look, Katetsu says, and Anko scratches her ear and her ear ring twinkles. Find, lead the way, Anko says, and follows Katetsu to the aforementioned gate. 2 other proctors were looking over the bodies as all of them were face down. Anko arrives with Katetsu. So who are they? She says. The Kusa team, but their faces are missing, one says, named Izumo, and Anko's breath hitches. Izumo has brown hair and dark eyes with his hair combed down and his right eye, dressed in the gray uniform. The proctor named Mozoku has dark-colored hair that is concealed by his hitai, which he wears like a bandana, with glasses and gray uniform. That's his style. Why is he here? Anko thought. Alert the Hokage right now. Orochimaru has infiltrated the exams. Also get an Anbu squad. Anko shouts and rushes towards the fence and leaps over, before the others could protest. That bastard. Could he be after Naruto? Anko thought, leaping from tree to tree. Music. Orochimaru theme extended. Naruto Ost. Team 7 currently find themselves in a small clearing after dealing with a shape-shifting team from AIM. We'll need a password or phrase to make sure we are who we are, Sasuke suggests, but Naruto points to Hinata. My Byakugan can ascertain the truth, Hinata says. Naruto looks around, but suddenly the wind picks up violently, tearing through the area and sends him flying, or so they thought. Hinata and Sasuke are thrown into several bushes as the latter draws a kunai. What the hell was that? Sasuke thought, as they emerge from the bushes and sees a large runt torn into the ground. Naruto-kun, Hinata shouts, with a few cuts in her clothes but ominous chuckling echoes around them. Foo. I would worry about yourselves. Rather than that, boy, a dark feminine voice says. A tall figure emerges from the shadows of the trees with long smooth hair and black eyes. She wears a tan top with a greenish outfit underneath, a thick purple rope belt tied in a large knot behind her back. The kunoichi pulls an earth scroll from her pack with a giggle. You want this to match yours, she says, before swallowing it down. Call me Shior. Before very long, one of us will have both scrolls and the other will be dead, Shior sneers, unleashing her ki. Hinata and Sasuke gasps as their deaths played before their very eyes, causing both to drop their knees and Hinata to vomit. Foo. So much for the mighty Uchiha, Shior sneers. Sasuke struggles to his feet as his Sharingan activates and gains another Tomo. I won't be looked down on, he thought. Ah, he's overcome the fear through sheer will, Shior thought. Sasuke throws himself forward with a thrust of kunai and shuriken, but Shior dodges back and breaks left. Hinata struggles to her feet, but her legs were wobbly. I'm no good like this, she thought. Hinata gasps as Shior drives her foot into her gut, knocking the wind out of her and slamming her into a tree. Naruto-kun, Hinata thought, losing consciousness. Sasuke rejoins the fray with several kicks, but Shior blocks and counters with her own. Your Uchiha blood has arisen. Show me more, Shior says. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu, Sasuke shouts, firing a large flame. Shior dodges the flames, but Sasuke closes in with a barrage of kicks and punches, and Shior dodges. However, gains the upper hand and sends Sasuke into a tree with a crack, but the Uchiha Saiyan substitutes with a log and pulls some ninja wire, ensnaring Shior to another tree. Kaden. Ruka no Jutsu, Sasuke shouts, engulfing the enemy Kunoichi and blowing a hole through the tree. Music ends. Hash hash. Sasuke pants heavily to rein in his breath, but ominous chuckling comes from Shior's body as she frees herself, but the feminine tone shifts to a male tone. Impressive, Sasuke-kun. Such control over your Sharingan. You will do so nicely, Shior says, but part of her face is ripped away. The ripped portion reveals pale white skin and a snake-like eye with purple markings. Your eyes are so much keener than Itachi's, Shior says. Who are you? Sasuke shouts, trying to move but cannot. I am Orochimaru, but that's all you get until we meet again, Orochimaru says, and suddenly extends his neck to bite Sasuke on the collarbone. Sasuke screams as Orochimaru pulls back and a three-tomo mark forms as the Uchiha heir struggles to stay standing but collapses. Seek me out if wish to have true power, Orochimaru says, starting to sink into the ground, but stops and starts to laugh. Kukuku. I was wondering when you would show. Not very nice to let your teammates get so hurt. Naruto-kun, Orochimaru says, looking to a higher branch. It's not something I want my teammates to see, Naruto says, landing in front of the unconscious Sasuke. Orochimaru chuckles with a grin, as much I would like to test the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. I've already gone. Setting my sights on someone else. My dear Sweeten, he starts, but Naruto's boot slams him into the tree. However, Orochimaru melts into mud, causing Naruto to kick the tree and it shatters. Damn it, he's here then, Anko, Naruto thought, and creates two clones. Take Sasuke and Hinata somewhere safe. One of you dispel to let me know, he says, and both nod as Naruto vanishes. Moments earlier. Anko races through the forest in search of her bastard sensei, Naruto. I know you'll be mad me, but I have to do this, she thought. Anko drops down as she sees a figure in the distance and her eyes narrow in rage. Fu. Anko, my dear. It's been too long, Orochimaru says. Anko pulls Force and Bond from her sleeve. Cut the shit. You're an S-class missing nin and need to be taken down. Who better to do it than your former student, she shouts, flinging the Senbon. Not quite, Orochimaru says, spewing his tongue. Anko dodges up the tree into a crouch, but dodges again as the tongue follows her but snatches her right arm, dragging her to the ground, but she corrects. Sanae Jashu, Anko shouts, spewing snakes from her sleeve. The snakes slam the Sannin into the tree and yanks Orochimaru out and slamming him into the tree behind her. Now you die, Anko shouts, rushing him, but her body seizes and the Orochimaru before melts into mud. Anko clutches her curse mark as it pulses wildly. No, she thought. Kukuku. Almost Anko dear, such a shame, Orochimaru sneers and raises a half-ram sign. Anko screams loudly as her curse mark starts to spread. What have you done? She screams. I've decided to get rid of you, dear. Your curse mark will spread and it will kill you. I can only imagine the look on Naruto-kun's face, Orochimaru states. Anko collapses with a heated glare on her face as her marking spreads to her face. Don't you touch him, she shouts, tears in her eyes. So, he did heal your broken heart and soul. Kukuku, Orochimaru says, but his breath hitches. Music. Cometh the hour, Part A, Bleach Ost. Naruto lands with a thud behind them, but his breath is distorted. Stay away from her, he hisses, stepping out the shadows. Orochimaru's eyes narrow as Naruto's form comes into view with his hollowification on full display. As the Kyuubi doing this, Orochimaru thought. Interesting, Naruto-kun. I wonder if the Kyuubi is responsible for this, Orochimaru says and lowers his stance but his eyes widen. Naruto grabs Orochimaru's face and blitzes them through several trees, as Anko's curse mark stops. Naruto, Anko thought. Naruto reaches a clearing and drives Orochimaru into the ground, before leaping and driving his boot into the Sannin's chest. This indeed is an interesting transformation, Orochimaru says, as the one under Naruto's boot melts. Believe what you want, Orochimaru, Naruto says and reaches for Zetsue. Orochimaru quickly closes the gap between them, but his body was sliced in half, shocking the Sannin. Orochimaru opens his mouth wide as another body emerges, but Naruto gives him no quarter. Byakurai, Naruto utters, blowing open Orochimaru's shoulder. The Sannin hisses in pain and shunshuns to a branch. This boy can be very dangerous. If this is the Kyuubi, I'll just shut it out, he thought, his fingers glow. Orochimaru launches forward with his real speed and jams his fingers into Naruto's stomach. Gogyo Fuin, he hisses. Naruto's body seizes and his transformation seizes, but Naruto fades away, shocking Orochimaru. Yutsusemi, Naruto hisses, behind the Sannin with Zetsue raised and cutting through Orochimaru's right shoulder down. Orochimaru once again's his mouth wide, but a large white snake erupts out with his face. Curse you, boy, he hisses. So that's your true form, Naruto says, but his eyes narrow. Shame I can't kill just yet. You and I both know Anbu are approaching, he adds. Orochimaru narrows his eyes with a hiss. You will regret this, boy, but at least I can take Anko away from you, he says, bursting into hundreds of snakes. He's right. I can sense her fading, Kurama says, and Naruto swipes his face, releasing his hollow mask. Music. Restriction and Pledge, Hunter x Hunter Ost. Naruto quickly races back to Anko and finds her laying nearly motionless, her breathing labored and sweating profusely. Anko, wake up, Naruto shouts, rubbing her cheek. Anko barely opens her eyes but manages a weak but sad smile. Sorry, Naru-kun. The bastard got me, she whispers. Naruto clenches his fist but glances Zetsue and grimaces. You jinxed yourself, she says, and Naruto looks down. And Chan, I can save you, but you have to do something, Naruto says, and Anko winces in pain. Whatever it takes. I don't want to die. Before we, Anko whispers and coughs violently. Naruto clenches Zetsue and brings it closer to her chest. You'll have drive Zetsue into your chest and it'll make you like a me, he states and raises a ram sign, creating a barrier. Anko slowly reaches for the blade and they drive it into her chest, causing a bright blue glow to illuminate the forest. The light slowly dies down and Naruto pants heavily as Anko lays motionless, but her curse mark was gone, leaving some burned skin where it originated. Next to Anko was a wakizashi with a coiled snake guard and purple and silver hilt. How much did she get? Naruto thought, and Zetsue manifests. About 40%, but it seems to be a success. Perhaps being exposed to your Ryutsu facilitated the change, Zetsue states. Naruto removes his left glove and bites his thumb. Raise her shirt. I need to put the pseudo gente rain, he says, and Zetsue lifts Anko's shirt. Fuinjutsu is quite the art. If you were able to recreate the gente rain, Zetsue says. Naruto places his thumb on Anko's stomach and starts to draw an Old English 6 and channels his Ryutsu, causing it to glow and adhere to her skin before vanishing. There now, she won't leak her Ryutsu unknowingly, Naruto says and rises to his feet. Anbu are close by. They'll take care of her, he adds, picking up her sword and seals it into his left hand. You should get back to Hinata and Sasuke, Zetsue says and dispels. Naruto gives Anko one last long look and leaps off, revealing her location to the Anbu. Neko quickly appears in a crouch. Over here, it's Anko, she shouts, picking her up. Music ends. Hash hash. Naruto stares out the opening of the abandoned tree that his clones found for Sasuke and Hinata. Hinata woke up during the interim and nearly popped his clone, but Sasuke was sweating profusely. Naruto looks away from the opening to the other occupant in the tree, her red eyes filled with worry. You can rest, Karen. I'll keep watch, Naruto says. Karen adjusts her glasses with a weak nod. Teams may try to attack during the night. I should be your guard. I can sense them, she says, but Naruto waves his hand. Don't worry, Naruto muses. To think a member of your clan was still alive, Kurama comments. Naruto rests Zetsue on his shoulder. Good thing I killed that bear, but this may present a problem. Karen is a pure Uzumaki. Those bastards will hound her, he thought. Then have the Senju take her into her custody until you reach clan head status, Kurama says, and Naruto sighs but nods. Nightfall drags on, but no teams try their luck, but not for a lack of trying, due to Naruto keeping his barrier up while asleep. The morning soon came and Naruto closes his eyes, dropping his barrier and listening for movement. Naruto-kun, Hinata whispers and Naruto glances back. Morning, Hinata. Are you feeling any better? Naruto asks and Hinata slowly nods. Naruto quickly makes 2 clones to get them some fresh water, as he unseals some food from his scrolls. Has Sasuke woken up yet? Hinata says, but Naruto shakes his head, taking an apple. His fever has started to go down, but nothing indicates he'll wake up soon. We're at a disadvantage. Even if Karen helps us, Naruto says, but his eyes narrow, feeling his clones dispel. Hinata, stay in here and don't come out. We have company, Naruto says, getting to his feet. I can help you, Hinata says, but Naruto give her an eye smile. Don't worry, I'll be back, Naruto says, stepping out of the hollowed out tree. Sitting on a rock was Zaku, while Kin and Dosu were in front of their teammate. Wake up, Sasuke. We wish to fight him, Dosu says. Naruto drives Zetsue into the dirt and rests his right hand on the hilt. Sorry, Sasuke isn't here right now. Can I take a message? He says, taking a bite of his apple. Zaku hops down with a sneer on his face. Looks like you wanna die first, he shouts, raising his hands and reveals small holes in it. Take this, Zaku shouts, firing a concussive blast of air. Naruto breaks right as it tears a path, but Dosu meets him with his Kayome Supika aimed for the blonde, but he somersaults over his swing. Oof, that is an interesting weapon, Naruto shouts, landing and turning on his heel to close the gap between him and Kin. Zenkaha, Zaku shouts, aiming for Naruto but only hits Kin and slams her into a tree unconscious. Naruto lands on the rock Zaku was sitting on. No care for teammates, he says. Dosu narrows his eye. He's definitely strong. Somehow he's not affected by my Kayome Supika, he thought. Zaku, we'll take him together. Dosu starts, but a chill went through his body. Naruto leaps off the rock and it shatters, but Zaku raises his hands. Zenkakyokua, he roars, but this time engulfs Naruto in the blast. Ha 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 ha. He's not so tough, Zaku shouts, but Dosu's eye widens. Zaku, behind you, Dosu shouts. Zaku whips around, gasps as Naruto was behind him, his face scuffed with dirt and his hair blasted back. Oi, what did the 5 fingers say to face? Naruto says. What? Zaku says, but Naruto connects with a left hook to the jaw, laying out the Oto Shinobi. Slap, or rather punch in this instance, Naruto says and turns his attention to Dosu. Naruto cracks his knuckles. Your turn, he says, but stops and his eyes narrow. Music. Junkyusha, Naruto asked. A dark and sinister chakra catches Dosu and Naruto's attention as Sasuke rises to his feet, purple chakra swirling around him. Hinata and Karen quickly get out Sasuke's path as he methodically emerges from the tree, with a flame-like pattern on the left side of his body. Dobi. Fight me, Sasuke utters, his Sharingan active. Naruto fully turns to Sasuke with narrowed eyes. This isn't time, Tem. If haven't noticed, we're under attack, he says. Sasuke stares at this left and clenches it. I could care less about trash, he says. Oi mummy, take your teammates and leave the scroll, Naruto says, leaking his ki. Dosu tosses his earth scroll towards Naruto and collects his fallen teammates. Orochimaru-sama didn't mention the curse mark, he thought, leaping away. You'll fight me, Dobi. Sasuke starts but smirks. Or maybe I'll mess with that redhead girl, he adds. Naruto pulls some air in through his nose and exhales deeply but shakes his head. Not today, Tem, he says. Then I'll make you. Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu, Sasuke roars, firing the shuriken-coated flames. Naruto dodges the flames and closes the gap between but smirks. Nighty-night, Tem, he says, and Sasuke jerks. Hinata quickly closes several of Sasuke's tenketsu points and the strange marks recedes and he collapses. Music ends. Hash hash. Sasuke-kun, a certain voice erupts. Sakura emerges from the bush line towards Sasuke. What did you do to him? She shrieks. We stopped him from nearly killing us. Since you were close. You saw everything, Naruto states. Kiba and Shino drop from the tree. What was that chakra? Kiba asks. You got me, Naruto says, picking up the scroll and retrieving Zetsue. Sakura continues to blubber over Sasuke but he scrunches his face and opens his eyes. Sasuke-kun, she cries. Sakura. Where am I? Sasuke says but Naruto silently scoffs. Naruto-kun. Should I open his tenketsu? Hinata says, following him to the tree. Karen comes out with a frightened look on her face. His chakra was so foul and cold, she says. Don't mind him, Naruto says, rubbing her head. Kiba and Shino follow Naruto. Do you have all your scrolls? Kiba asks. No, we lost our heaven scroll. We'll find another, Naruto says, lying perfectly. Oh, well, a bit of warning. Stay away from the Suna team. Kiba starts and shudders a bit. They are dangerous, he adds, and Shino nods. Thanks for the tip. Need some food. We've got extra, Naruto says but Kiba shakes his head. Nah, we're leaving, Kiba says and turns on his heels. Sakura, let's go, he shouts. I'm not leaving, Sasuke-kun, Sakura screeches but Sasuke touches her cheek and nods. Sakura quickly gets to her feet and follows her team, shocking the remaining Team 7 and Karen. He's got a hold on that howler monkey, Kurama says. Sasuke staggers to his feet and approaches Naruto. What happened to my power? He says. Hinata closed some of your tenketsu points to keep you from drawing on it. That power is nasty, Naruto says but Sasuke grabs his shirt. I need power to kill him. Orochimaru has given me power and reminded me who I am. I am Avenger. I must have power at any cost. Even if being consumed by evil, Sasuke says. You're no Captain America, Zetsue comments, as Naruto grabs Sasuke's arm and applies some pressure. I could care less about your sole ambition. Right now we need to head to the tower and pass these exams, Naruto says. Sasuke winces and lets go but keeps up his glare. Fine then, but we need another heaven scroll, he says but Naruto scoffs, pulling said scroll from his forearm. No we don't, Naruto says and glances to Hinata. Release his tenketsu and let's head to the tower, he adds and Hinata nods. Hashtag Forest of Death Center Tower hash. Team 7+1 arrive at the tower about 3 hours later, stopping for breaks but not encountering any teams due to Naruto's clones and barrier. The group make their way through the hall and see a large sign, if qualities of heaven are what you desire. Acquire wisdom to take your mind higher. However, if earthly qualities are what you lack, train your body to attack. If heaven and earth are open together, the perilous path will forever, Hinata reads. It could mean the scrolls, Naruto comments, pulling both from pockets and tosses one to Hinata. Sasuke folds his arms as Naruto and Hinata open the scrolls but smoke erupts from them. It's a summoning jutsu, he says and both toss the scrolls. Smoke erupts and reveals Shizune in a Jonin uniform but her sleeves were longer. Congratulations on passing the second round of the Chunin exams, she states. How many other teams have passed? Hinata asks. So far 5 teams have passed but the Suna team passed in 97 minutes. Breaking the previous record, but the shocking part was, one of them was completely uninjured, Shizune explains and Naruto's eyes widen slightly. Putting that aside, the exams will end in another day. All teams not inside the tower will be disqualified. There are rooms on the several floors and a cafeteria, Shizune explains, pointing to the stairs. Can we return to the forest? Naruto asks, but Shizune shakes her head. No. All teams remain inside the tower until the round is finished, Shizune states, and Naruto slowly nods. Naruto-san, one moment, Shizune says, and Naruto glances back. Anko Mitarashi is currently in the hospital. She was found in the forest. I thought you should know, she adds, and Naruto nods. Thank you. Oh, can you take Karen to Tsunade-sama? She's family, Naruto says, and Shizune furrows her brow. I'm in Uzumaki, Karen says, and Shizune's eyes widen a slight fraction but nods. I'll take her and inform Sandame-sama, Shizune says, and places a hand on Karen's shoulder, and they vanish into Leaf Shunshin. Why'd you tell about that proctor? Because of those photos, Sasuke says, but Naruto ignores him and continues for the steps. Naruto rounds a corner and creates a clone, before erasing his presence with his barrier. I'll be back shortly, Naruto says, and vanishes as the clone gives a thumbs up and follows his team to the 10th floor. Anko looks around in shock. Where am I? She whispers, seeing a sprawling mansion and garden. The last thing she remembers was fighting Orochimaru and him activating her curse mark. Then Naruto returning and saying he could save her, but at a cost. Anko rubs her forehead with a sigh but senses someone, causing her to whip around. Era. Very jumpy, a voice says. Out of the shadow emerges a petite girl with pale skin and large compound-looking snake-like eyes that do not possess pupils, only a haze of gradient, purple iris that becomes darker, the lower it goes. Who are you? Anko questions, but the girl giggles, moving one of her hands. Her hair is shoulder length that fades from black into dark purple blue. Well, my name is $$$, she says, and Anko furrow her brow, causing the girl to cover her mouth. Era. You can't hear my name yet, she says, revealing more of herself. She wears a kimono with a snake pattern, which fades into a sky blue then pink down the sleeves, which were cuffed with a black and white dotted trim. So who or what you? Anko questions, and the girl holds out a sword. The sword is a wakizashi with a coiled snake guard, its hilt silver and purple. I am a Zanpakuto spirit. Namely your Zanpakuto spirit, but you can't hear my name just yet, the girl says. Anko's eyes widen and start to flicker. Then Naruto, she starts, and the girl nods. He used his own power as the catalyst to awaken me, the girl says. Anko reaches for the sword but feels a pull, seems you awakening. Until next time, mistress, the girl says, waving. Anko slowly opens her eyes to the smell of medical cleaner and white ceiling. Anko. Thank Kami, Hana says, appearing in Anko's periphery. Tsunade approaches from the other side. You're very lucky and incredibly foolish to go after him alone, she says, sternly. Anko touches her left shoulder and feels burned skin. It's gone, she asks, and Hana nods. It isn't, it was doing you more harm than anything. However, now that is gone. Your chakra pool will grow, Tsunade says, and rubs her nose. So what happened? Sensei wants to know, Tsunade adds. Anko slowly sits up with Hana's help and a pillow. The other proctors found 3 bodies outside the gates. All of their faces skinned off. It was his MO. I immediately asked them to alert the Sandame and an Anbu team. I did act irrationally, but he has tormented my life for years. I needed to face him, she explains. Did he say why he infiltrated the exams? Tsunade asks. Anko reaches her shoulder. He never said. Someone or something attacked him and I lost consciousness, she replies. Tsunade bites her nail with a small growl. Therein lies a problem. I'll inform Sensei. Maybe Jiraiya has something, she says, and excuses herself. Hana rises from her seat and hugs Anko. I'm glad you're okay, she says. I may finally be free of him, Anko whispers, sniffling as Hana pulls away. Get some rest, all right, Hana says, and Anko slowly nods, as the former excuses herself. Anko sighs and notices her hair was untied but blinks, sensing a presence and looks around. Your senses are awakening, Naruto says, appearing from thin air, and Anko gasps. Naruto closes the gap and pulls Anko into his chest. I'm glad you're okay, he whispers. I'm sorry for forcing you to save me and use your powers, Anko whispers. Naruto kisses the top of her head. You didn't, but it seems you met your Zanpakuto spirit, he says. I did, but I don't know her name yet, Anko says, as Naruto pulls back. Naruto ruffles his hair. That'll take time, but we can work on it, he says. I should get back. We passed the second round, Naruto says but smiles. One step, he says. Yeah, then we finally say it in public, Anko says and leans closer. I love you, both thought, sharing a loving kiss. #NayHQ#. Is that accurate? Danzo states. Across from him was Orochimaru in a sound Jonin uniform, Kukuku. Indeed, he says. Danzo grips his cane. He's more powerful than anyone realized, he says. He's close to Jonin in power or more. I was holding in back when we crossed path. His strange transformation has caught my interest. I don't believe it's the Kyuubi. Perhaps a undiscovered Kekkei Genkei, Orochimaru states. Neither of his parents showed such an ability, but nothing is known about Minato's heritage, Danzo says.